World War I, often referred to as the Great War, was a seismic event that forever altered the course of history. Fought from 1914 to 1918, it involved more than 30 countries, introduced horrifying new technologies of war, and caused profound shifts in global power, culture, and society. Its legacy continues to shape our world today. Here are the top 10 essential facts about this monumental conflict, expanded with deeper insight and historical nuance. 1. Triggered by an assassination, the spark that set the world ablaze. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary by Gavrilo Princip on June 28, 1914 ignited World War I. Rooted in Balkan nationalism and tensions, the killing triggered Austria-Hungary's ultimatum to Serbia. When Serbia's response fell short, war was declared. Due to entangled alliances, Russia backed Serbia, Germany supported Austria-Hungary, and Germany's invasion of Belgium brought Britain into the conflict. Within days, what began as a regional dispute escalated into a full-scale global war involving all major powers. 2. Fought between two major alliances. The global reach of war. World War I was fundamentally a clash between two major coalitions: the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria; the Allied Powers, France, the British Empire, Russia, Italy, which switched from the Central Powers in 1915, and eventually the United States and Japan. This division wasn't just military, it represented opposing ideologies, imperial ambitions, and long-standing rivalries. Each country brought its colonies into the conflict, turning it into a truly global war. Indian, African, Australian, and Canadian troops fought in theaters far from home. Japanese forces attacked German holdings in the Pacific. The conflict touched nearly every continent, involving over 70 million military personnel. 3. Introduced trench warfare, the war of mud, blood, and stalemate. The Western Front, stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, became infamous for trench warfare. By late 1914, both sides had dug in, and the front lines barely moved for the next 4 years. Soldiers lived in horrific conditions: mud, lice, rats, and the ever-present threat of enemy fire. Trenches were often filled with water, leading to conditions like trench foot, where feet would rot in wet boots. Battles like Verdun and the Somme became symbols of futility and mass slaughter. At the Somme, British forces suffered 60,000 casualties on the first day alone. No man's land, the area between opposing trenches, became a death zone. Trench warfare symbolized the dehumanization and stagnation of modern war, where entire armies bled for inches of ground. 4. Marked the debut of modern weapons. World War I introduced industrialized warfare with machine guns, deadly artillery, primitive tanks, and evolving aircraft. Chemical weapons caused horrific suffering, while German U-boats disrupted shipping and provoked US involvement. These innovations made war more brutal and impersonal, transforming battlefields and leaving lasting psychological scars on soldiers and civilians alike. 5. Claimed millions of lives, the sheer scale of human loss. World War I's human toll was unprecedented. It is estimated that over 16 million people died, including around 10 million soldiers from all nations and approximately 6 to 7 million civilians who perished due to bombings, famine, and disease. Some of the most intense battles, such as Verdun, the Somme, Gallipoli, and Ypres, produced staggering casualty figures for minimal territorial gains. The war also created the conditions for the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, which spread rapidly among troops and civilians, ultimately killing an estimated 50 million people globally. In some countries, entire generations of young men were lost. France, for instance, lost more than 1.4 million soldiers, while Germany suffered over 2 million military deaths. The psychological scars ran deep, creating a lost generation that profoundly influenced art, literature, and politics. 6. US entry shifted the tide of decisive intervention. For the first 3 years, the United States remained neutral, though it supplied the Allies with material support. That changed in 1917 after repeated German unrestricted submarine warfare sank American ships, and the Zimmermann Telegram, in which Germany proposed a military alliance with Mexico, infuriated the US public. On April 6, 1917, President Woodrow Wilson asked Congress to declare war on Germany. By the time American troops began arriving in large numbers in 1918, the Allies were exhausted. The fresh manpower, supplies, and morale from the US played a critical role in the 100 Days Offensive, which pushed the Central Powers back and ultimately led to the armistice on November 11, 1918. 7. Redrew the map of Europe, the end of empires. collapse. The end of World War I marked the dramatic collapse of four major empires that had dominated global politics for centuries. The Austro-Hungarian Empire disintegrated under the weight of internal nationalist movements and military defeat, giving rise to new nations such as Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. The Ottoman Empire, weakened by years of war and internal strife, was carved up by the victorious Allied powers, leading to the creation of modern-day states in the Middle East under British and French mandates. The German Empire fell following military defeat and a revolution at home, resulting in the abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II and the establishment of the Weimar Republic. 8. Sparked the Russian Revolution. Russia's involvement in the war was disastrous. Poor logistics, ill-equipped soldiers, and staggering casualties, estimated at over 1.8 million dead, led to deep discontent. By 1917, food shortages and military defeats triggered mass unrest. The February Revolution forced Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate, ending centuries of Romanov rule. In October, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power in a coup. Their first act was to pull Russia out of the war through the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany, ceding vast territories. This revolution not only removed a major player from the war, but also laid the foundation for the Soviet Union, igniting a century-long ideological struggle between communism and capitalism. 9. Women's roles expanded. With men at the front lines, women filled roles that were previously unavailable to them. They worked in factories, transportation, agriculture, and administration. In Britain, women known as munitionettes worked with explosive materials in hazardous conditions. In France and Russia, some women even served as soldiers or nurses near the front lines. This shift had lasting consequences. The war challenged traditional gender roles and gave significant momentum to women's suffrage movements. Britain granted voting rights to women over 30 in 1918, and the US followed with the 19th Amendment in 1920. These developments marked the beginning of broader social and political emancipation for women. 10. Left a lasting cultural impact. Remembering the Great War. World War I left a permanent mark on culture and memory. Writers and poets such as Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, and Erich Maria Remarque, author of All Quiet on the Western Front, depicted the grim realities of war with raw honesty. Their work challenged romantic notions of honor and heroism. The term lost generation described those who came of age during the war, disillusioned by its senseless violence. Artists and intellectuals, from Picasso to Virginia Woolf, responded with works reflecting the trauma and chaos of the time. War memorials like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and Remembrance Day, November 11th, serve as solemn reminders of the cost of war. The poppy flower became a universal symbol of remembrance. In conclusion, World War I was more than a military conflict. It was a cataclysm that reshaped borders, societies, and the very way humanity viewed war and peace. It toppled empires, sowed the seeds for future conflicts, and transformed social norms. The top 10 facts above highlight its depth and devastation, but also its pivotal role in shaping our modern age. Over a century later, the echoes of the Great War continue to influence our world, serving as both a warning and a lesson in the cost of unchecked nationalism, militarism, and political miscalculation. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. Thank you.